Hi, I'm Doug Gentili. I'm president of James 2 Association, a Christian racial reconciliation nonprofit, and I'm here to give a powerful testimony of God's miracles through cancer and just in every other way. Now, before I had the cancer, we go back to the late 1960s and early 1970s when I was in college. And the mood of the nation was very godless. I mean, most of the people worship what we call existentialism. They were um, that believed that we had the freedom to define our own morality, and that was very destructive because you had people using drugs and sex. Um, I wasn't into the drug and sex scenes, but I ran with that crowd, and I protested the Vietnam War. And let me just tell you, there was such an outpouring. There was a mini revival against the existentialist, postmodern, destructive, secular values, as many people were touched by the truth of Jesus' death for our sins and his resurrection, and um, just hundreds of thousands of former people who were involved with sex and drugs saw that their life was going, to destruction, and accepted Jesus. And I was one of them. And specifically, how God reached out to me was pretty amazing. It was 1971, and I was at Ohio State University, and I hitchhiked. Meaning I got a ride with cars. It was very common back then just to get rides with other people all across the country to Los Angeles, California. And uh, God had reached out to me through different media. My cousin, who was getting involved with Campus Crusade for Christ, who was at MIT, and other people were telling me about the truth of the Christian gospel. And I just wasn't paying attention to it. So when I got to California, I had this wild and crazy attitude. Um, so I rented a cheap hotel on the Sunset Strip, and I saw a sign saying, "Oh, strip club." So there were um, girls who were, in the club who were strippers. So I wanted to go there. So I tried to get a ride on Sunset Boulevard, about 2 miles down the road. Well, I was picked up by a car, and there were two people in the front and another person in the back who was also hitchhiking. There were four of us in the car. So we were driving down Sunset Boulevard, and all of a sudden the car turns off. And I said, "Excuse me, but I need to get off here because I'm going straight." Well, the guy sitting next to the driver pulled a gun and aimed it at us and told us to keep our heads down and give him other wallets. I'll give him our wallets. So we were kidnapped and terrorized for about 10 minutes and robbed, and then dumped off in a poor Latino part of East Los Angeles. We were told not to look back at our car or we'd be shot. Um, and they took our shoes so we could not, chase them. And that was a terrifying experience. Um, my father had to send me money, um, wire me money because I had nothing, to get back to Ohio. And and God used that experience to plant a thought in my mind, and that is, wow, what would have happened if I would have died right there? Would I have seen God? Would I have been with God? Would I have been in heaven with God and Jesus? Um, I was nominally a Christian, but I had not made a decision for Jesus, and it was like a scary moment. God used that to wake me up, and then all the truth that my cousin and other friends had taught me about the Christian gospel, the truth of Jesus' resurrection, um, the truth of the Bible, the grace and the love coming from Jesus all came. And what really moved me, in addition to that, was the civil rights movement was very active back then. Had Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and just countless thousands of African Americans fighting for civil rights. And I noticed something about them, and that is that they were facing terrible persecution um, up into the late 1960s, um, especially in the mid 1960s, as the Civil Rights Act was being passed. And it was amazing because they're in jail, they're being beaten, they're being harassed by southern governments, um, racist governments, and yet they were singing Christian songs. They were joyful in the face of that persecution, and and that led me to make a decision for Jesus Christ. Well, all through the years, it was up and down. Once we accept Jesus, we have to walk with Jesus. We just it's like an athlete exercising. We have to um, exercise the power within us, because once we accept Jesus, we get the Holy Spirit. We have to exercise that Spirit. And there's real change, there's transformation. And I was kind of in and out. I was paying attention. Sometimes I wasn't. And I had a lot of knowledge gaps in the Bible. And a good Christian group called the Navigators really, just encouraged me, trained me on correct biblical teaching, poured out the love multi-ethnically, and Jesus working through multi-ethnic churches in New York City called the Race Riot, when the civil authorities could not do that, especially between blacks and Koreans, churches with different racial ethnic backgrounds. So that really got me fired up for Jesus. And then, I came to Virginia. I was trained with the Navigators, and then by 1999 is when the first amazing miracle happened. Through illness and cancer. Many mornings I'd wake up, maybe 4 or 5 in the mornings, with the constant message that I need to go see a doctor. This happened several days, and I couldn't understand it. I was feeling fine. I did not have any symptoms. I felt strong. I was running several miles a day. Yet it just kept coming. So finally I said, well, maybe it's a message from God. So I went in to see a doctor. And the doctor said, well, okay, we're going to do a blood test. And he said to me, well, we test for, and he gave a long list of medical ailments that they test for. And then he said, well, usually when people turn 50, we give a test for prostate cancer. I was 49, so I said, I'm not 50 yet. So I said, well, we won't do it right now, maybe next year. As soon as I said that, I felt like a jolt going through my body. It was like a electric shock, but not really painful. It was like a jolt, and almost involuntarily, I said, no, go ahead and test it now. I mean, it was the Holy Spirit, because I wasn't thinking along those lines. I mean, I just told him, don't test it. And then, bang, a jolt in my body, go ahead and test it now. Well, after that happened, I had a biopsy, and it showed that I had prostate cancer. Well, I was terrified. I mean, my faith was pretty strong then, but I was scared, because my children, I had 2 boys, wonderful boys, and they were young, and I walked around the days for 3 hours. Finally, I just put it to God, and I said, God, I'm going to ask the church to pray. So I went to my home church, which had a multiracial group called People of the World, and maybe 30 people or so, at least 30 people, surrounded me, extended their hands to me, and prayed for me. After that, for about an hour, and after that, I felt no fear for this disease, no fear. So I went into the hospital for a major operation, and the doctor told me, well, after this operation, you're probably going to have some permanent damage in certain ways, and you're going to have, it'll be 4 or 5 months before you can get back to work. So I had the operation on October 12th, 1999. Well, after the operation, I felt, that there was no permanent damage. And on November 1st, I was cleared to return to work March 1st. On November 1st, I went back to work. Um, I felt totally recovered. It was a total miracle. There's a small group where we got together and studied the Bible, and I knocked on the door, and we got, 5 or 6 people, and knocked on the door, and they were surprised to see me. I said, wow, you're supposed to be sick. Well, no, I was totally recovered. Okay, now we're going to fast forward 14 years, and I was, but during those 14 years, every year I would give praise to God for being cancer-free. I was doing civil rights enforcement, racial reconciliation, for the government. And then at the end of 2012, when I was doing a ministry on campus, reaching out to international students, I got another message. It just came over and over that I needed to leave the government and retire. I was still pretty young. I wasn't even 65, and I said, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, because I was at the top of my game. I had won a presidential award. I had won other kinds of awards. I was enjoying my job. I said, this can't be real. That I should leave, but I wasn't paying attention to God. So what happened is God did something amazing to get my attention. I went into work, and one afternoon I could not swallow. I could not swallow water. I could not swallow anything. And there are multiple witnesses to the fact I could not swallow. It was so bad I had to go into hospital for intravenous infusion twice just to keep me alive. And finally, I went to the doctor. This is like 2 weeks later, and I was famished. I couldn't eat. I was surviving on just this intravenous liquid. And I said, doctor, do I need a feeding tube? And the doctor, I think, with the power of the Holy Spirit, said, no. And I said, okay, so I just put it to God, and just the fact that I was putting it to God, He took it away. That night, I went home and drank 16 ounces of orange juice. God just took it away, and I didn't understand what He was doing until a few weeks later when I went in, and the doctor said that the cancer had come back, late stage. And the thing is, if I would have stayed on the job, I could have dropped dead because there were all kinds of side effects, from disease and other underlying conditions, including kidney issues and high blood pressure. I could have dropped dead on the spot. So God was merciful. He called me out and said, Doug, what you're going to do, you need a flexible schedule. And so at that point, I did racial reconciliation ministry as my main calling. And it's just been so amazing, just reaching out locally and nationally, to try to bring people together across racial, ethnic lines in churches, but also outreaching to non-Christians. And and there was even a greater miracle, because I'm a writer, and I actually have had a published novel. It was a non-Christian novel. That I published before the cancer came back. So I prayed to God, what do you want me to do about my writing talent? He said, well, you burn all the books you wrote that had nothing, that were not Christian. Just destroy them. I said, okay, I did. So I destroyed it. He said, okay. And God said, from now on, you're going to write books that only have Christian messages, suspense, thriller, action, suspense drama books. So I said, okay, you have a book you want me to write, God? So as I was going to the doctor, this is 2013, for some reason, a 30-year-old outline of something I put together came back, and I couldn't understand why, so I just prayed about it, and God just totally revamped it, gave me new scenes, um, characters and everything. It was totally family friendly, no sex, no cursing. And I said, okay, I think God, you want me to write this book. It was a blockbuster action thriller with lots of twists and turns, and it's futuristic with different scenes in South Pacific and Latin America, um, which is called Rockefeller Valley. And, and I envisioned it would take me maybe a year to write this. Guess what? When I started writing, it was like a movie being downloaded in front of me. And I wrote this book, 350 double-spaced type pages in 23 days. God was showing this miracle, and He wasn't finished because, you know, being you're just looking at things from a worldly perspective. Say, okay, well maybe I should try to get it published and get rich. And God said, no. Okay. I had gotten a small press out of Florida and published like a few hundred copies, and God said, no, you're supposed to give this away. So these published books are just sitting, like hundreds of them, just sitting around, because God wanted me to give this book away, and a prequel that of the same character set 3 years earlier. He wanted me to give both these books away. And it's been so great because these books have gone into 6 continents. These books were used by God to encourage and save many people for Jesus Christ, because the suspense drama market is very godless, very vulgar, and God wanted me to use these books to open up that market. And they're in 6 continents. I don't know how many thousands of people have been touched by these books. So I just want to wrap up by saying that I'm just so grateful to God, because I have tumors all through my body, and God has kept me strong to do this ministry, the Racial Reconciliation Ministry, and give these free books away. So if you, I just want to plead with you that this life means it's so short. The most important decision we can make is for the next life. So just look, please examine the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and look at how many countless thousands of people have been transformed because they accept Jesus. So I just wanted to say, God bless you all, and and thank you for listening to this video. Peace and love.